The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, we're frozen again. The internet is broken from broken internet.
Have you tried turning it on and back off again?
Back to the wired connection. The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Good evening, everybody.
Josh Shigala from thestandard.io.
Let's roll.
Oh, man. Internet. Like,
try. What about a hotspot from your phone?
I mean, I'm at home. I have fantastic fiber optic internet. Fantastic until you want to use it.
Until you want to use it, try it. Yeah, but hotspots are good. They're hot.
I guess we'll just keep going. And Threesome from the Grotto. How's it going, Threesome? I think I'm back now.
All right, you're back. Well, I'm back as well. Thanks for having me again, Thomas.
All right, let's try to keep going. We don't know what's going on with the internet today. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, crypto analysts outline Bitcoin price to $220,000 in 2024. It's not just me, you, and Adam back predicting the price of Bitcoin anymore. It's major analysts at major firms launching major tweets with large prices. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the idea that Bitcoin could not only...
What do you reckon, Victoria?
I'll just carry on regardless, shall I?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype around this at the moment. You know, a lot of people are predicting the price going to the moon, and that's not unusual in Bitcoin. This happens from time to time. Normally, though, when it gets to the stage where everyone's predicting that it's about to go up, then something shocking. Oh, Thomas, we lost you.
I knew I should have stayed in bed.
No.
The old hotspot usually works best for me.
I think we're still live, guys. I think we're still live.
Really?
So I will carry on. So yes, this is fairly typical for this stage of Bitcoin's, well, not necessarily this stage of Bitcoin's price cycle, but normally, you know, often when everyone's predicting it's about to go to the moon, that's the point at which, you know, things can turn around and pull the rug out from under your feet. So yeah, I would always be careful. I mean, I personally, until there's some kind of catastrophe that breaks the existing financial system, anything could happen in Bitcoin. So I'd never get too confident on the way up. I'd never get too scared on the way down. I think anything could happen, really.
Let's go to Josh Shigala. I think I'm back for a minute anyway.
You
We'll keep
are.
going. We'll cover
It's
you.
magic Zoom. It's well, yeah, I just love how these random analysts come up and give a random number. It really makes my day. I love these articles. You could just have analyst predicts, you know, $2 million. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's good. 220, sure. Like, you're dividing infinity by 21 million, so it can just be any number, really. I don't know. Let's see what happens. I hope so. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, let's do it. Where would you sell?
And
chat?
Josh,
Where
they've
would you
gotten
sell?
even lazier at writing these articles to where they just kind of quote someone on Twitter. You used to go to someone, call them on the phone, get a quote, write it down, ask some follow-up questions. Now it's just analyst guy on Twitter tweets large price prediction, And guy who writes article about price prediction. There's no work anymore. There's no substance to these articles.
Yeah. And thank God it's not pronounced analyst. Like, lucky for that guy's job.
Would be tons worse. But yes, I agree, Josh. It's mainly about if Bitcoin works and the proposition works and there's only 21 million coins and it's locked at that, the price is almost impossible to predict because it could go so large. But everyone just keeps putting in these kind of penny-ante predictions like it's 70 now, it could go to 80. It could go to 100, you know, and you're like, but if it works, it could redefine value for the entire universe, right? I mean, it could go to millions and millions of dollars a coin. And to say that now is to predict something. To say it'll go to 80 is like saying it'll go to 75. I mean, I'm not impressed, but they keep writing these articles, you know. I think we're back. I think the internet just started working again, which makes no sense. It drives me crazy. But let's go to threesomes. Your thoughts on Bitcoin to $220,000 a coin?
Well, I think that's the number of the week, right? And if you go back just a few months, we were clamoring for 100,000 because we were down to, below 50. I think, when it comes down to it, we have people talking about it that haven't been talking about it for years, which is the big difference. And I think that's what you're seeing these, even if it's a Twitter analyst, which is just a step below a market analyst, if we're honest, they have as much information at their fingertips as the next guy. They're just going to say a number. And the fact is, though, that more people are saying numbers, which is, I think, the interesting takeaway here. I know in my side, even though, we do have plenty of Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin side, I've got collectors and groups of members of the group that are really into that side. But just as much, we're talking about it, even guys who don't own a single Bitcoin. It's there, it's present, it's sort of on the tip of everybody's tongue for the last couple of months. So I think that's the big change. The numbers.
I'm being told in the chat that even discussing the price of Bitcoin is causing the price to go down. But fortunately, we're joined by the only analyst on the internet that knows what's going to happen before it happens, the Magic 8 Ball, the true predictor of Bitcoin. And now you are forced to predict against the Magic 8 Ball. Poor you. Victoria Jones, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week? Last week, all the analysts on this show, well, we weren't here, but the week before, they said higher. It went lower, like the ball said. Higher or lower?
Well, I hate to disrupt a good trajectory, so I'll keep going with lower then.
Josh Shigala, higher or lower this time next week?
I don't know, but does this make me an analyst?
You could be written about in Twitter articles, but it would be a lot easier if you were the founder of Dogecoin. All they seem to do is write about everything that guy spits out of his mouth. Yeah.
That guy says, yeah. Higher. Let's go.
And let's go to threesome. We've got higher and lower, kind of a mixed panel so far. Which way are you going to go?
I'm going to say that we're going to be higher than today. Yes.
Higher. And now predicting against the ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Remember, if you shake one of these balls, it could cause bubbles. Will it be higher? Very doubtful. Very doubtful. So the ball is pessimistic. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, the upcoming Bitcoin halving is different from others before it. Here's what investors need to know. Josh Shigala, the media is here, and they're here to tell you everything about Bitcoin, even if you've been in it for years. What's different about this Bitcoin halving than the last ones?
Well, it's starting off the same because these are the exact same articles that have popped up just before every single halving. So it's sort of some sort of self-referencing joke. But it actually, I think it could be a little bit different. I think it could be right, actually, because these ETFs have caused the price to spike beforehand. Usually it collapses beforehand. Who knows why? Usually it's because people think that the halving's all priced in, and then they want to sort of, sell the news. And actually the news is, guys, there's less of this stuff. So it's not really news. It's just more of a quantifiable fact. and it's quantifiable through the price going up eventually because miners need to pay for the electricity. You know, mining has always been a job for holding. Even when Bitcoin was $1, $30, stuff like that, it was always, it was never profitable at the moment of mining the stuff. You had to hold it for a bit longer until you had enough of it, or until the price caught up to where you needed it. So generally, miners have really strong hands, and they don't let go until they can afford to sell it or go broke. So that's usually what miners do. And there's different techniques. You know, you can hold it, you can turn off your mining rig so you don't have any more bills, but you still hold your Bitcoin to pay for the electricity that you'd consumed earlier. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day is what happens to the price. But now with BlackRock consuming 10,000 Bitcoins a day, that's just one ETF. We got 9 of these suckers. And then you've got the other ETFs starting to make murmurs. There's one in Australia starting to pop up. There's ones in Europe. So there's just not enough of these things around, literally. And now that we're heading towards from 6, whatever it is, 6.45 down to like 3.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes being released, and BlackRock wants 10,000 of them per day. Something's got to give, and that's probably going to be the price.
Yeah, my favorite article around these times is "The halving is priced in." And they tell you all the reasons why nothing's going to happen this time, and the price has always gone up. And then there's always those people that sell immediately after they're halving. They're like, nothing happened. It's supposed to go up that day. And then about 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it's going to be later, everything goes up and everything's fine. And everyone retrospectively changes all their articles and deletes all their negative tweets. Let's go to threesomes. What do you think about the Bitcoin halving? Is it different this time? As Josh says, we have ETFs causing major demand. The media is aware of it this time, but I don't know that people really understand the dynamics and the basic reality that halving is happening.
I think, you know, like Josh said, it's certainly a lot more people in the know now. And when you factor in the ETFs, it's going to be a major move into them with this, you know, the smaller amount available. But to me, the question that I have really for the group, because I wasn't around celebrating the last 2 halvings, right? You know, we were joking about it before we came on a little bit, but I imagine it was just, you know, early on, it was just the real cognoscenti getting together and being like, you know, this is about to get exciting for us. Now, when we're talking about the ETFs and all of the major corporations involved in this, starting to celebrate in the media because it's a part of the narrative, is it something that probably Victoria sees it more than anybody, but is it something that we're seeing a real, you know, celebration? Is this a festive atmosphere going into the coming days, or?
A lot of this, I mean, I got to go first with my sour grapes because, again, we had our cool little thing and we were the hip inside Bitcoin people. And now the media is here and the big businesses and all the cool people are here. And we are not invited. We are not invited to any of the major parties. We haven't heard from anybody. Nobody's saying, here's $5,000. You had really cool halving parties like the last 2 times. We want you guys to rent a ballroom or whatever. Haven't heard that. So the cool kids are here. They're having their own cool kid parties, and we're not really invited. So that's changed. But again, our initial investment thesis, our belief in Bitcoin is still strong, and it doesn't really matter. But yes, as far as being cool and hip, that's not us. Let's go to Victoria. What do you think about the halving this time and the parties and such, as threesomes asking?
I think we'll always be cool, Thomas, even if we're only cool in our own little niche. So, you know, don't worry. You know, and these things always come back. These things always come back round. So, you know, and there's a lot of benefit from wisdom and kind of being there, seen it, done it. I mean, you know, I mean, I remember in 2017, the media were getting all excited about Bitcoin, and this was just before it crashed again. And I don't know, I know that the halving normally anticipates a big run up in the price, but as you've said, you know, sometimes the halving will happen and it'll be a couple of months, it'll be a few months before it really starts to take off. So given how much hype there is from a lot of new people in the space who don't really understand what's going on. You know, the massive disappointment could actually lead to a huge crash, you know, because as you say, you know, they expect it to go up straight away. They've heard all these things about the halving. In many respects, it's probably already priced in. And so they're all disappointed, and us oldies will be sitting there going, told you. So, you know, and if nothing else, that will make you cool again. So, yeah, I mean, we've kind of been there, done that, seen it. And as I've said many times before, I don't think the fact that Wall Street's involved in this party is necessarily a good thing, because, as you know, because they've got such resources, as far as they can run it up, they can also run it down. And in the broader financial system, you know, there are murmurings of trouble on the horizon. I mean, a lot of people have been predicting rate cuts, but with inflation going up, a lot of people are saying those are now not on the table, and a lot of the rise in the stock market and consequently also the rise in Bitcoin will be tied to the fact that a cut in the interest rates could you know, indicate that you know, the stock market's going to start rising again. So if they're going to actually keep interest rates high, that could actually have a huge implications in terms of money velocity in the economy. So even though they're actually creating money behind the scenes, higher interest rates slow it down, and there are murmurs of problems in the commercial property markets and stuff like that. You know, if we have a huge crisis in the traditional financial system, Bitcoin will take a hit, because as good as the technology is, not everyone people are only just starting to understand it. They don't fully understand it, and if there's a sudden shock, you know, a lot of people could be blindsided by that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a roller coaster. The exact timing of it is really hard to predict, but it's going to be a roller coaster, I can tell you that much.
Well, it very much takes me back to my high school economics class, and I think I was taught by the wrestling coach. But still, when you reduce supply and you reduce potential supply by 50%, it doesn't instantly increase demand, right? People still have Bitcoin on stock. They don't have to go buy it right away. It's not like their existing savings or anything goes down by half. So the idea that people think it's going to take off right away, like Victoria said, from the halving, like even people like planning their parties for midnight or whatever and pretending it's New Year's Eve, and they'll look at their watches and their investment will double or triple like at that very minute. Like that's not going to happen. And again, if you're the media or if you're planning one of these star-studded fantastic parties with all the analysts who've brought you nothing but truth about Bitcoin for the past decade, you can rewind to them telling it was only drug money and that it's disgusting and a pet rock and all these horrible things they said for years. But again, they're on it now. So that doesn't, you know, it erases the past. But Josh Segala, have you been invited to any star-studded parties? I was invited to a party by our friend, famous Bitcoin singer Tatiana Moroz, but nothing from CNBC, nothing from Grayscale or ETF, BlackRock, any of these people. No one banging my door down. And again, you know, like we have threesomes here, so I need to brag. You know, I'm a famous NFT artist sold in Christie's and Sotheby's. Still no invitations. Still no invitations.
Hey, it reminds me a lot of the Revenge of the Nerds quadrilogy. You cannot, you know, you can't take the nerd out of the nerd. It doesn't matter what happens in life, you'll still be the nerds. Anyway, look, the halving parties have always been fun. I don't know what's happening actually this time around. I got to make some calls. I'll probably hang with.
Well, obviously we don't want to over promote it here, but of course we're going to have our World Crypto Network hang out like always, and people can come and they could drop by, and you could even go to other parties. We're not like exclusive, you know. You have to sign a contract with us. You won't go to any other parties. We're not doing that. But yeah, no, we'll do our thing, Josh. But the bigger people will do their things, and they'll have bigger financial people, and they'll probably tell you how many millions of dollars you could make right on that show, maybe even in the thumbnail, like one of those. You'll make $1 million when I open my mouth. So it's never too late.
I wonder what time it's going to be this year. That's the other thing, you know, being Australia is always at the arse end of every time zone. It doesn't matter. It's either really late or really early. But yeah, you know, traditionally it's always been a fun time for sure, and eventually something happens. I've never been one to know what's going on until the last minute when someone says, "Hey, Josh, come and join us." But yeah, there's been a couple of really good live streams over the years where people join in, and you get everyone from what's his name from Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and that was still while he was censoring everyone about Bitcoin. So, you know, like Twitter was actively shadow banning and canceling people because they were talking about Bitcoin, because it was seen as so many scams and stuff like that. That was at the time when Facebook banned it. Google banned any advertising, Twitter banned any advertising, and when they said advertising, also anyone talking about it. So, yet Jack Dorsey would pop up on some of these parties. That's how like excited people got. So, yeah, we'll see what happens now if we're going to see Larry Fink there. Yeah, halving. We'll probably see Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. Like these are all the types of noobs that come along, and everyone celebrates them because they've got deeper pockets, I guess, or traditional deeper pockets. I'm not sure. They surely weren't visionaries at the start, or maybe because I have heard some of these people in the past actually crap all over Bitcoin and then turn around. Jamie Dimon is a typical one. Like he'll sometimes say good things. Well, he'll do good things like launch an ETF or something, which it's arguably a good thing. And but publicly he'll crap all over it. I think even what's his name? The gold guy,
Peter
Shifty. He's his son's all over Bitcoin, but he isn't. Anyway. Parties.
Well, we can only imagine, Josh, that everyone's coming around, and that in another 4 years we'll have a live stream with Mr. Wonderful, Mark Cuban, Jamie Dimon, the head of the Federal Reserve, and we'll all reminisce about how stupid they thought we were for decades and decades and decades. So, I think we answered your question there, Threesome, but no, not expecting any major party invites yet. But remember, at its core, what's amazing about this event, and we've watched it a couple of times here. I wish I'd been there 3 or 4 times. That would have been amazing. But at its core, you're going to watch a screen, and it's going to be putting out blocks. And let's just say it's like a 5 reward block. It's going to go to 5, 5, 5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. And that's it. That's the entire event. Obviously, the numbers are different. It's going from 3 to 1.5 or something in that range. I forgot the exact number, but yeah, it's hardly an event. And then you look at the price and your wallet and everything, and you're like, it's gonna go, and nothing happens because people have Bitcoin. They haven't run out yet. Like supply squeeze is not instant, but it's amazing when you do cut production by 50%. No one else does that. No one but Bitcoin. But let's move on to the next issue. Check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got hundreds, maybe even thousands of videos like this. You can click on the On This Day button and find out what videos we made on this day in the past, 2018, 16, 15, even 2014, all for free on worldcryptonetwork.com. Moving on to issue 3, VanEck CEO says brokerage platforms aren't recommending Bitcoin ETFs. There's a long way to go. I don't know what it will take to get these people to understand Bitcoin. It's on their own platform. They make all the brokerage fees for it. They profit by selling it, and yet they aren't recommending it to their customers yet. They're buying it in boatloads. As Josh said, they're buying more Bitcoin that are made every day than exist, but they're not recommending it yet. Victoria Jones, what do you think about these risk-adverse financial advisors who aren't recommending Bitcoin yet, and the fact that if they do start recommending it, then there'd be huge demand inside the ETFs?
Well, I mean, I do, in spite of the fact that I think Wall Street is largely run by arrogance and hubris, I think there are a few who do understand the danger that Bitcoin poses to the existing financial system. At the moment, the existing financial system is run by numbers. You know, since money lost its tie to gold, it's kind of loosely been tied to oil, and then even more loosely tied to debt. There's nothing verifying those numbers on Wall Street at all. And of course, Bitcoin comes along with its verifiable mechanism that disrupts all of that. And so I think there are some who understand that very well. And it may well take time before that has an effect, but that's going to have huge implications that I think some of them understand, but maybe not everyone. I don't think everyone understands what the implications of this will be. And for some people, it's quite scary. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. I mean, there are some people who are excited about it because they believe that the price will go up, which it will for those who hold it, and even more so for those who hold a lot. So that's an incentive. But the wider implications of what Bitcoin does in terms of what it's designed to do, I don't think even Wall Street fully understands the implications of that yet.
Well, and I just think that's great. I think that's an advantage for our side and everything. And I love the idea that they'd have some worry about bringing it in, but at the same time, that guy's making money and that guy's making money and that guy's making money. And there's only a matter of time before they got to let it in, right?
Yeah, the greed will get them in the end. And that's what we're all relying on.
It's a beautiful,
In the end,
beautiful
is
system.
the key is that because they'll recommend it right at the top.
And like we've said before, they have the money to make it go up. They have the money to make it go down. Josh Shigala, what do you think? They're not even recommending these things yet they're buying hand over fist every day. These are the financial advisors you can trust. These are the guys on CNBC that you want to give your money to every day, no problem.
Yeah, financial advisors have never been keen on Bitcoin purely because of the massive volatility that's always been there. And so it's generally largely a bottom up industry. You know, it's where with the grassroots support, ignoring all craziness, being reckless as with their money, and then the lawyers and the VCs come in, and then later, you know, the institutions and governments, and so it's really been the other way around, and that's always been a fact. And so when you get financial advisors right now telling you don't buy it, that's just because they don't know, is tomorrow going to be the crash? So they're just scared. The fact is that people see their mates, they talk about it around the fireplace at the pub, and they're like, man, I think I should just buy a little bit. And if you have access to leverage through Wall Street tooling, then now with these ETFs, you can go long pretty well, and you can put some of 401k pretty easily and all these other things. So I think it's only a matter of time where people just tend to ignore the analysis and buy it anyway. Yeah. But we've said it before on this show as well. What happens is that when you should actually buy Bitcoin is when no one's talking about it, when it's right down, they remove it off the ticker on CNN, on NBC, they remove it from all the mainstream media because it's right down, it's boring as hell. And then when everyone starts talking about it is when it's really all-time highs and your phone's blowing up saying, hey, I've heard you talk about this stuff. Can you help me buy some? And you have to ignore it, because if you help them right now, they'll also blame you when it crashes. So you know, there's all sorts of it's a really annoying. I've just stopped recommending it altogether all the time, except for when it's right down low. That's when I'm like, hey, by the way, have you thought of Bitcoin or Ethereum or any, you know, like some major blue chip technological advancement in this space?
It is amazing, Josh. They're going to wait right until the end to recommend it. After all the ETF hype, all the halving hype, just at the end, they'll be like, hey, maybe you should buy Bitcoin, right? Right when it goes down. Let's go to threesomes. What do you think about the ETFs not even recommending it yet, despite all the massive sales that we've seen?
Well, I think that it's still just a sliver of their broader portfolio, right? And so, look, blockchain's a little scary when it comes to this sort of speculation, in the sense of it's being finite and transparent, and Bitcoin in particular, right? That you can see what you're up against. And most of the financial markets play in all sorts of obfuscation and manipulation, and that's the broader speculative play in most investment, right? And so to imagine that these companies that have made their entire, business out of that sort of a space where it can't be tracked and it can't be, acknowledged, that what's truly what makes up the true value there, when there's so much manipulation, it's hard to wean them off of that. And I think that's what it comes down to more than anything, is it's just a little sliver of what they're putting out there, but B, it has a lot less that they can sort of play with, opposed to the fact that it's right there. The ledger and the blockchain tells all. And I think it's going to take some time before we get to a point where the stability of it holds through, and then they're a little more comfortable with it. But in the time being, I mean, I think they'd rather play with things that are a lot cloudier than something as cut and dry and obvious.
Well, and they also don't get those sweet kickbacks. The doctors get all those free pens with all the different kind of drugs on them. They don't have that pharmacy rep coming around saying, hey, you need to represent the Bitcoin. If you promote the Bitcoin to your next 10 clients, we can get you some sweet box seats at the next game. Nobody does that for Bitcoin. Satoshi never calls anybody up. And if you want to put in $1 million, $10 million, no free seats, no pretty girls, no free pens, nothing. No promotion at all. I don't know how we're going to make it anywhere. Let's move on to the next issue. A really quick one here. Hong Kong is seen as approving Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs as soon as Monday. This might even have caused the price of Bitcoin to take off. But like Josh said earlier, we are seeing international ETFs, not just America, and perhaps for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's just go really fast. Josh Shigala, what do you think? Hong Kong ETFs?
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, and then there'll also be Ethereum ETFs. There'll be other ETFs. So it's it's only a matter of time. So get on there. They'll Hong Kong, Australia, Europe. They're the major hubs.
And let's go to threesomes. Do you think this will be the beginning or the end of international ETFs? Will other countries catch on to this obvious financial benefits? Yeah.
I think it puts us like 10 or 11 countries that have ETFs that are offered, and there's 200 countries out there. I mean, not all of them have a market trading, but obviously I think it's the tip of the iceberg. More to come.
And let's go to Victoria. I know you're not a fan of the ETFs, but the virus is spreading worldwide, as predicted previously on this show many times. Once the banks went, they'd all go like dominoes, whether it's in their interests or not, whether they did the research or not. Think of the FTX disaster. We now doubt that they even do any work at all, even the smallest bit of due diligence. Johnny was in, and Freddie was in, and Paul, they all invested too. But what do you think now we have the virus going international?
Certainly seems like it. They all love a good bandwagon, don't they? So all jumping on. And then there'll be like lemmings going off at the same time. It's just like, watch out below.
That will be the best point, when they're making Bitcoin and crypto illegal. And we're saying, hey, just a few years ago, you had us on Wall Street. You had everyone out, and they pushed the button, they rang the bell, they pulled the switch, and they're like, forget, back into the box. And we've got some other, go ahead, Josh.
Just quickly before we move forward, I think one of the biggest parts of the story is when we have another global financial crisis, it will probably be the Bitcoin ETFs that will be able to bail in all of it. So we could see these massive hordes of Bitcoin being able to be used to bail out the entire system if it got that big. Remember, these are all custodial, all of them, and so yeah, it's quite a danger to the whole. It's quite a danger actually to have these. And what the first big news event I'll be waiting for is first Bitcoin ETF to be hacked. and drained in one foul swoop. So it's only because all of these are holding coins on a major exchange. We all know what happens when you hold your coins on a major exchange. The likelihood of being hacked goes up a lot. Sure, they might have a multi-sig or something like that, but if you get too intense with your security, you could also screw that up and never have access to it again. So it's either going to be, we've lost the keys, we don't know how to access it because we were too secure, or we weren't secure enough and we've been hacked. So this is the problem. This is why I've never been a big fan of things like ETFs or things like governments holding Bitcoin, because there's too many players involved in securing your own thing. Bearer-based assets in general, like gold or traditional bearer-based assets, are quite easy because humans understand how to hold physical things pretty well and have authority over those. But digital assets are so new, digital security is so new, it's very, very difficult to hold on a mass. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see the first Bitcoin ETF hack.
Well, and when the first Bitcoin ETF is hacked, Josh, they'll have my absolute favorite conversation. They'll say, how many Bitcoin did they take? I'll say, well, they took them all, sir. It's like, how many trucks did they have? No trucks, sir. It was all one transaction. They were here and then they were gone. And you can't reverse it and you can't undo it. And it doesn't matter how good your computer guy is, what schools he went to, all of that. It's over in a second.
Well, this is what's fascinating as well, is the Bitcoin ETF, yeah, that's true. But an Ethereum ETF, because it's proof of stake, you have such large hordes of it sitting in BlackRock and the other ETFs that they can go to the other ETFs and say, hey, let's reverse that transaction. And they'll reorg the chain because they hold so much of it, which means that they control the voting power. And this is why proof of reserve is really scary for this traditional mechanisms like ETFs, I think. And this is why proof of work is probably superior in that sense.
I know you guys won't like it, but it sounds like a bug, but it might be a feature. That does sound what large financial institutions would like if they had a magical oopsie button, if one of their brothers was hacked, especially for hundreds of millions of dollars, devastating results. Bad for the hacker, who found the loop, good for the financial institution. So if we were to compare Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, as much as I know Josh is saying it's a negative, it might be seen as a positive. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. We got a couple more small, short, quick stories. We're going to continue our SegWit and UASF victory tour here as Coinbase, one of the companies that was against SegWit, that was against UASF, that was in favor of SegWit 2X, which had bad code that broke a few weeks into its running, has again officially capitulated to the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is being added to Coinbase. People can now use it and maybe stop ignoring it and excluding it from their mainstream media articles when they talk about Bitcoin. Let's go to threesomes really quick. What do you think about Coinbase adding the Lightning Network and again completely giving in from the block size war victory to UASF and SegWit?
I think it was bound to happen, honestly. Yeah, didn't come as a surprise, but I think I don't think they were going to get in their own way on that one.
I was surprised they waited so long. I'm always surprised when they do capitulate because they are such a rich and powerful organization, even though they started off down the hall from one of my failed startups. But yes, it's great to see them come around. And as much as it's fun to make fun of them and push them under the water and so forth, they're a big company. They're a Bitcoin supporting company, and now they're supporting Lightning. So we do welcome them back. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Coinbase giving in and accepting the Lightning Network, perhaps one of the true ends of the block size war here?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic news, and just goes to show, from the block size wars, just how important that discussion was, and we won, and the success and the victory is now following through, and ultimately, I think that's a good thing for humanity. So yeah, Coinbase has had to capitulate, and hopefully that won't be the last battle that they lose, because I'm quite sure there'll be more in the future.
Josh Shigala, a long time ago, I made a list of all the companies in favor of SegWit and opposed, and it was just Mad Bitcoin and like Dishwalla or Oddwalla or something that was with us. And all the other ones all opposed it. And now everything has changed. What do you think, Josh? The digital currency group, Coinbase, the founders, the kings accepting Lightning Network.
Yeah, people bag Lightning Network. I think it's got a lot of problems still. I wish it had moved faster, but I think a lot of it was psychological. I think a lot of it, because of the block size wars, people just didn't want to give it a go. And I do find it's scary because it's a lot more custodial than base layer. It doesn't have to be. You can run your own node, and that way you are actually custodian of your channel. But it isn't the panacea. But I do think if you zoom out, actually, I just got the chart here. We now have $304 million locked up in value within the Lightning Network. So it's growing a lot, and a lot of the past, it's been just basically the bear market, since 2023. Halfway through 2022 to 2020, almost 2024, it was pretty much going sideways in terms of TVL. And it's been going up with the bull market. Obviously, the bull market, goes up in dollar value because it's the bull market. So it's kind of a weird metric. I'd like to see TVL in terms of units of Bitcoin and what's happening there. I'm still trying to find that. I can't find it right now, but yeah. So it's I think it's really important that we find more layer 2 solutions, because humans are insatiable in terms of how much data they want to put onto a cheap blockchain. This is the false narrative that gets pumped out of there constantly, is that our blockchain's super cheap. Oh yeah? All right. Well, wait until you're actually mainstream and used, because everyone will put weather data, my Apple Watch data. They'll just chuck everything in there if it's cheap enough. The only thing that can stop it is price. So, and the other way to stop that is to have as many layer 2s as possible, because that way you can then scale outwards. So you can have dedicated use cases for certain things. That does comes with problems as well, though, because you start to separate liquidity, and we're seeing that in the Ethereum space, that liquidity becomes very, very fragmented across all of these layer 2s. So you don't have mega deep liquidity on one single L2. You have some liquidity here, some liquidity there, and some liquidity there. So you might need to buy smaller amounts. This becomes a problem for large institutions, but from the ground level, it's not that problem. And people are working on it. There are cross-chain aggregators working very, very hard to try to pull this together. So maybe a transaction just takes longer, but as these bridges get faster, that might even go away. So there's a lot of work happening, cryptographic work as well, to try and prove ways of finalizing or having more finality in a shorter space, while not breaking the safety. So yeah, L2s are important. Lightning Network's important. It didn't really work on the Ethereum space, the Lightning Network concept. Rather, what worked is just adding more, well, in the Bitcoin language, side chains or drive chains or other chains like that. It's not the best UX, I got to say, having L2s. The best UX is L1, just base layer. And that's why people are so pissed at the whole thing. It's like, I'm just used to be able to say send and it works and I can see it and it's gone. L2s is annoying. The UX is terrible. So if there's really good UX designers out there, there's a massive opportunity there. If you can make a good user experience while interfacing with L2s, then you're going to be very, very successful.
And we're running out of time. We do have a couple more issues. Avenged Sevenfold Season Pass is turning heavy metal fans into blockchain evangelists. And I just thought this was a really cool issue. It's a heavy metal band. I've never heard of them. I'm sure they're great. They have their own Death Bats NFTs. They have token gated ticket sales with Ticketmasters. And now they're having a season pass where fans can subscribe and get rewards, activities linked to the band. It just sounds like a really cool use of blockchain, Web3, and NFT technology. Threesome, what do you think about Avenged Sevenfold and their interesting season pass?
I think they're established enough that they could do it. Okay, they've got the history and the success that they're not going to put their rise in jeopardy, right? But I think this is what we're going to see more and more. I think blockchain is for ticketing, whether it's sports or concerts, is going to be one of the easiest use cases for most people to enjoy. And I think that all that's possible, the nice thing that they're doing is they let these fans have their experience, build up, collect the pieces of their fandom essentially, and then because they're on chain, they can sell them and deal with them individually, right? So it's not dependent on a driving ecosystem that does it. It lets the fans sort of take control of their own experience, and I think that's the key that's understood here. But I think we're going to see it across all entertainment, and I think it's a great thing to see.
I agree. I'm excited to see these ideas in practice. We used to theorize about these ideas and we said, yeah, if you're a band, you could sell a subscription, you could sell tickets, and people could collect the digital ticket stubs, in the same way they collect the real ticket stubs. But like you're saying, the big part about that is being in a separate system. If this was happening at Ticketmaster.com and you could only sell them through Ticketmaster, if you sold one for 100K, they take a giant cut. They close down the market. They investigate you. There's all kinds of things they'd have to do if they own the market. Whereas what's neat about this is you kind of put it off on its own chain, on its own system, and then people decide if they want to buy it. People decide if they want to resell it, rather than one company.
Absolutely. And I think that's always been the case. We will see, even, whether it's a Live Nation or the big promoters sort of coming together and taking different clients and assembling them into mini markets. That's going to happen, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, because determining that the Avenged Sevenfold fans can figure out an entire marketplace ecosystem of their own is a stretch. But I think that as the singer's talking about it, that he sees young bands that are coming in this now being used to blockchain technology and being used to these things starting out from this way. That's where we're really going to see the change drive. And in sports in particular, we can talk about that another time, but the baseball aspect of it and the ticketing aspect and the experience, but it's there and it's coming. It's good to see.
Well, and while you said this is an established band and certainly not financial advice, but the dream on this is that you would come up with the band and you would see them at a small venue and you would buy the early NFTs or the early album support or whatever it's going to be. And you'd have this little thing of collectibles, and it would keep you even closer to the band, where you're not just attending shows, you're collecting part of it. And then in the early days when they need money for gas for the van, you are financing the van, band. And I think that could be really exciting for people and to be involved at that level. But again, everyone has to make their own choice. Oh, internet's back. Great. Victoria Jones, what do you think about NFTs and like Avenged Sevenfold selling a season pass and having all of these options to promote their music?
Yeah, well, I'm all for innovative ideas. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I'm not culturally involved with that kind of music or even the music scene in particular. It's never been a particular interest of mine, but yeah, it looks very interesting, and I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I have a fascination with ticketing because there's been countless projects trying to break that concept, and it's never really taken off, and I don't know why, because it makes a lot of sense. Like if I was an artist, I don't know what to price my tickets at. I could guess, but I'm probably going to get it wrong because there's no market. I'm just setting the market. And what tends to happen, and it used to drive me insane. You have like, I'm guessing we're still live, but yeah, the problem is that you go to buy a ticket. Like I remember wanting to go see Rage Against the Machine, and it would sell out in seconds. Um, or it wouldn't sell out. The website wouldn't work, and you have this long line waiting, or they'd have to like sell it in blocks, or it was just a nightmare. When really what is important there is price surging. You need price surging because that's the market saying, there's a line here, and markets don't like lines. True free markets get rid of lines and queues because they price they price it in. So it sucks because all the equity people would be like, oh yeah, but only the wealthy get it now. Yeah, but this is just this is how you price scarcity. And so this is what happens. So you if you have price surging and secondary markets, you can put your tickets up for sale, and then the scalpers actually play a good role now because they find a proper price for your thing. And maybe with an NFT, you can take a cut from the scalpers in the secondary markets. And at the end of the day, the next concert you have, you can now look at the historical pricing and go, okay, well, it looks like I should have raised my prices a lot more because the secondary market was going for 3 times more than what the original price was. So I can sell it for more, and maybe the secondary markets will then lose out because they'll reprice back down, or no one will show up. So I think it just makes absolute sense to have more of a secondary market on ticketing, because it's always been a bit of an annoyance where it's either too cheap and that you don't get a ticket because there's this massive line, or way too expensive and then no one rocks up to your show.
So let me tag
Yeah,
that real quick, hit that real
yeah.
quick. So the neat thing about the fan engagement aspect of it, not just in price discovery of the marketplace, okay? But for example, if you got an event that takes off, the secondary market goes, 10x, and all of a sudden, everybody's clamoring to sell because they're making such a profit. The band could see via blockchain who the fans were that didn't do that, who actually bought the ticket and used it and went to the next show, and you could see loyalty there via blockchain that could track the true fans, not just the ones that are there, making the quick buck, and then reward those holders via blockchain and wallet connectivity, and say, okay, you've come to the shows, you bought the ticket, you showed up at the show, you didn't succumb to the secondary pressures, and then you get extra access or early access or what have you. And so, that sort of customer management or fan management that's available by watching what happens. That's what I do with my art. I know who buys it originally, who sells it on the secondary, what they paid for it, all of that. By taking all that into account, it changes that fan experience.
So true. So true. Very, very valid point. And since the rise of TikTok, because this whole follower thing has been really important for creators, right? You get these followers, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's on YouTube, and you can continue engaging with these followers. The problem with what happened with TikTok is they went, oh, we don't need subscribers. We'll get rid of the subscribe button, and we'll just algorithmically show you things that we think you'll want. And so the followers drop away. This sort of thing, and I think it's really important to have for artists an engaged community that they've got, that they can continually talk to, and this is what blockchains allow as well. Is what you were saying there, is to keep that engagement, keep that follow aspect where you can see what's happening through on-chain data. Yeah, it's a really great point. Well, yeah. Important one.
Well, I think the Zoom client updated itself in the middle of the show, so that's good. So I'm kind of back. But we have one more issue we were going to talk about. In Nottingham, they had a Bitcoin Fest, and they say they went really well. There's this cool video. It's got a bunch of people we know in it. So we're just going to go to Victoria Jones. Just a quick recap. How did it go? A recap. How did it go at Bitcoin Fest in Nottingham, England?
Yeah, it was fantastic, actually. It was a real grassroots effort in order to put something together, mainly for the local community. It started because we recently located our meetup there, and a lot of the people in the football club were asking what this Bitcoin thing was. So the idea was to try and educate the local community. And yeah, it was great fun. People really came together in order to make it a success. And the organizers put in a lot of work. I did a series of interviews before the event, just to help introduce people to the speakers, because they weren't necessarily well known. And it was really great. And following on from that, I've just passed on a message, an article from BBC News. Apparently the Winklevoss twins have just invested 3.6 million in Bitcoin in Real Bedford Football Club. So this is could be a sign of things to come for football clubs and cryptocurrency developments. So yeah, watch the space.
Nice.
Very cool. Glad to hear the event went well, and congratulations to the football club. That sounds like a great investment. But we're running out of time, so we're going to head towards the end here. So we're going to go to prediction or story of the week. Threesome, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Sure thing. I guess the story of the week is that I've got the big the movement, the big migration taking place as I leave the Tezos blockchain behind and move full force into Ethereum and the base layer 2. So it's a combined force there, but it's got my project all abuzz ahead of the halving, and it's sort of our big focus is migration to ETH. So that's all we've been talking about for a couple months, and it continues to be the story of the time.
Very cool. And where can people check out your? Go ahead. Sorry, John.
Sorry, just a quick question. So are you moving to base, as in the Coinbase's L2, or Ethereum base layer?
Both of them. But so no,
okay.
Yeah, both of them, because I've got some additions that we do in the hundreds of thousands, and there's a lot of transactional stuff. So the non-existent gas fees on base, the layer 2, is really helpful. But the majority of the collection stays on ETH, the more
awesome. Excellent.
And for those who haven't heard or haven't checked it out, Threesome's got his own NFT baseball league. You can buy and sell players. You can be a manager of a team. Where can people learn more about this if they want to check it out?
The Discord is just Discord/Grotto, and the Grotto is the centerpiece of the whole project. So that's where we meet up and do it all up.
Very cool. Thanks, Threesome, for being here. I checked out like a draft once. It was very exciting. They were doing like a random number generator, and people were winning or losing. And it just sounds like a really fun engagement activity to have with NFTs, that they're not just baseball cards that you own, but they're players on a team, and they win and they lose and all of that stuff. I think it's really cool stuff.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Tom.
That's awesome.
All right. And Victoria Jones, a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, you kind of took my story of the week from me already. I didn't realize you were going to mention the Bitcoin Fest, but yeah, it was the Bitcoin Fest that we had last weekend, which really was a great event. I was also running the live stream with my daughter, and that's available on my YouTube channel, satoshispage.com. So if you're interested in what the speakers had to say, then that's worth looking at. The video quality, we struggled a bit because the Wi-Fi connection wasn't great, but we had a clear display of the slides, and you can still hear what people are saying. So yeah, check it out. And obviously we've got this little montage which has been put together by one of the video guys. Apparently he videoed the talks as well, so they're going to be coming out in the future. So yeah, more to come from that, and we're all really excited. We're going to try and plan a similar event for next year as well.
It does make a big difference if you run a Bitcoin event during the bull market or in the bear market. I know we went to a BitBrum in Birmingham, and it was a great event, and Joe did a great job. But he said, yeah, if only you'd been here 2 years ago, things were amazing. And it just must be so hard for these organizers. They do great work. They set up everything up in advance. And sometimes you have a huge day, sometimes you have a small day, and it's really much more about the market than any work that you did or didn't do as an organizer. So It's great to see we're
Yeah, this
returning
is-
to that.
That's what's always been hard for Mallorca blockchain days. Somehow they've always timed it just wrong. But
Yeah.
it's kept it really nice and niche and small, which has been fun for the people going. It's really good because you get really top quality people, very, very smart people doing great stuff in the space, all being able to talk to each other, which is great.
Oh,
Oh,
lost your
we've
sound,
lost
Thomas.
your sound now. Thomas is having a bad tech day, everyone. But there he is. He's back. No, he's not back. All right. Well, I'll round it off. Thank you very much to everybody. Until next time, bye bye.